Hello, people of the world of online car review watchers. Welcome to this, the all-new 2023 Lexus RX500H FSport Performance. Today, I'm gonna get it up in the air, we're nerd out in the tech specs, see how this thing is constructed, and then go give it some beans. So obsessed with this color. So pretty. Look at the tips look like, it looks like octopus eyes. What a weird looking muffler setup. The tips are just like these little things that protrude out there. Right away, starting in the rear, this is where the drivetrain starts to get interesting on this thing. In the location where you typically see the rear differential on an all-wheel drive vehicle, the RX500H has what's called an E-axle, which houses an 80 kilowatt electric motor, which is mechanically independent from the internal combustion engine up front. As you'll notice, it just stops right here at this rear subframe. There is no drive shaft going up front. All that connects the two systems is this sea of orange robot spaghetti. You can see on the top of the unit right there, there's a little oil cooler built into it. Rear suspension wise, the 500H utilizes a multi-link configuration, all of which is constructed out of steel except for the knuckle itself, which looks to be forged aluminum, as well as the anti-sway bar end link. That's also aluminum. The rear anti-sway bar itself measures in at 21 millimeter. It's paired with a set of adaptive dampers manufactured by Takiko. And on top of that, neat shit, this unit right here, bolted to the back of the rear subframe and connected to your suspension links, is for the rear wheel steering feature, part of the FSport Performance package that gives you 4 degrees of turning in contrast to what you're doing up front. Not to crab walk, to walk like, I don't know, a shrimp? I don't even know how shrimps walk. It's a little deceiving when you just look at the bottom of the knuckle right here, how the links are mounted up. You wouldn't think this thing has rear wheel steering. But when you look up here, you see the ball joint, you're like, suspicious. This 5th generation Lexus RX is built on Toyota's TNGA-K platform, shared with various other vehicles your real estate agent would likely drive. And this 500H model weighs in at 4,750 pounds. Lots of hairy cardboard. Typical like most Lexus Toyota products, the entire exhaust system is manufactured out of stainless steel. And this mid-pipe measures in at outside diameter of 60 millimeter or SAE, 2.36 inches. For something that's a hybrid that gets excellent fuel economy, this thing's got a massive fuel tank. Whoa. What the? It's got foam padding. Is it? That's why. It's not very deep. It's maybe, I don't know, 8 inches or so in depth. Healthy dose of seam sealer, keep it corrosion free under here. No chassis wax. The beauty of not having any mechanical connection between the front and the rear on an all-wheel drive vehicle like this is it makes maintenance a little bit easier. Up above my head, there is only one transmission available with this model, and it is the Aisin PC60 direct shift 6-speed automatic transmission, which is part of the front hybrid system. There is also an electric motor up here as well. The way in which this system works is it has twin disc clutches built into it to disengage the engine from the transmission, as well as to help with starting since it doesn't have a traditional torque converter. In part of the Direct 4 all-wheel drive system, it's capable of varying the drive bias of a 70% front, 30% rear to an 80% rear, 20% front bias. Up front, you have a McPherson strut style suspension with a forged aluminum knuckle, steel lower control arm, aluminum inner and outer tie rod, and your anti-sway bar end link. And then way up there, you got that Takiko adaptive damper, and that front anti-sway bar measures in at approximately 26 millimeter. Whoa, it's a little furry cardboard door. It's held in with metal hardware, and the thing's made out of it's weird cardboard. Time for the braking test. Nobody behind me. Ready? Go! Woo! I violently stabbed that brake pedal. good stopping distance, short. And it was smooth. I was thinking for something more intelligent to say, but nobody's home. That braking was just accomplished thanks to these massive 6-piston monoblock calipers with a 400mm or 15.7-inch 2-piece rotor. You can see the center portion of the rotor here. The hat is made out of aluminium. A little channel right here in the under plastic to direct airflow for brake cooling. These wheels, they are a 21x8 wrapped in a 235/50 Bridgestone Atenza all-season tire. Out back, things shrink substantially in the caliper department. You only get a single piston floating caliper, but at least it's painted to match the one up front. In the rotor, it is 13.4 inches or 340 millimeters. The wheel and tire, same size as you get up from. That tasted terrible. In the name of geometry, I am now going to give it the beans. Geometry is not science. Bolstering check. Hey, that's better than I was thinking. That's got pretty good bolstering, actually. These seats are heated and ventilated. However, there's no physical button anywhere that I can find for it. There's some for the memory seats over here on the dash, but if you want to turn on your butt weather, you have to do it over here on the screen. Also, the steering wheel is heated. I wonder if anyone makes a ventilated steering wheel. That'd probably sound weird. It'd sound like... Never mind. As far as drive modes go, I have normal, sport, and eco, and then custom, which you can configure yourself. And they give you powertrain, suspension, steering, and air conditioning. I'm going to select sport. It changes the whole gauge cluster. What Lexus doesn't have anymore that I miss is the robotic gauge that moves over in the cluster. I really like that. I shouldn't have gotten rid of it. Instead, you have this Terminator eye thing on the clamshell staring at you. I can also slap this little console diglet down into manual mode, but I'm gonna leave it in drive mode. Ready? Go. Whoa, it spun the front. Weird. It spun the front tires. Man, there's a huge delay between gears though. It's quick. That's really good. A big delay every time it shifts though. Hood pop. Oh, it smells so good in there. That's a soft hood pop. Ugh, that was strange. Hood struts. This color is even prettier in a satin finish. Underneath the hood of the 2023 Lexus RX500H is not one but two different power plants combined together. First of which is the internal combustion engine, which is Toyota's fairly new T24A FTS, which is a all aluminum dual overhead cam 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that it produces by itself 271 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 339 pound-feet of torque from 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. I would love to see that engine end up in a sports car. But that's not all that's underneath here. You also have an electric motor, which gives a combined system output of 366 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 406 pound-feet of torque from 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. There's so many 90s and 2000s Toyota sports cars I'd love to stuff this engine into. Let's see if I can take off this engine cover so we can get a better look underneath. There we go. Oh, cool, a bunch of foam. And that's why they covered it with a piece of plastic. It's not exactly the prettiest thing in the world. Wow, look at this fuel rail. I wonder what kind of metal that's made out of. It's got a plastic valve cover. It's a really wide valve cover. You can see back there, that is the single twin scroll turbocharger. And then up front, you have your plastic intake manifold. You got one of those situations where it just looks better with its clothes on. So I'm just gonna put that back the way it was. Digging in a little bit deeper on this fairly new engine. Now it is an open deck block, but it does have cast iron cylinder liners, forged steel crankshaft, forged connecting rods and aluminum pistons with an 11.0 to 1 compression ratio, an 87.5 by 99.5 millimeter bore and stroke. Up into the head, it does have VVTi, variable valve timing intelligent on both intake and exhaust cams, and it has Toyota's D4ST, which is direct and port fuel injection to help keep the back of the valves clean. Ease of maintenance wise, it's a pretty compact engine bay, even though it's a transversely mounted 4-cylinder. There's just a lot of stuff going on in here. The only plus that it has is the all-wheel drive system is not mechanically connected to the rear of the vehicle, but that electric motor transmission situation over here, that's pretty complex. Hey, look, the ECU's got some cooling fins on the side of it. That's kind of neat. Holy crap, that is a huge brake fluid reservoir. What in the fuck robot barnacle is this thing bolted to the side of a cylinder head? That is strange. Oh, the motor mount has 3 lilac bolts. I like that. This little heat shield's kind of interesting because if you look at it from the top view, it looks like it's meant to direct airflow across the top of the engine cover down there to the turbo. I have a slight suspicion we're gonna see something similar to this configuration in the new Toyota Tacoma pretty soon. Time to take this thing for a rip. The first thing I thought when I saw the new RX500 is what the hell does the 500 stand for? It's not 500 horsepower, it's not 500 pound-feet of torque, it's not 500 pounds or cup holders, and usually that's designated for a V8 sports car, which this is not a V8. But this is the top performance model of the Lexus RX, and that's all you have to look into it. I don't think there's anything deeper than that. Speaking of performance, this is something I feel you'd really notice at slower speeds or on a tighter course like an autocross. Not that anyone's ever going to do that with one of these, but you can actually feel the disconnect between the internal combustion engine and the front-wheel drive drivetrain up there and the electric motor and the rear drivetrain back there. At times, it feels like there's 2 different battles going on in the same vehicle in not a bad way. It's interesting and intriguing, and that's what kind of drew me to want to review one of these, to see if I could pick up on that, and you can. What you don't really notice though, and that's what this car was probably intended for, most of the people are gonna buy one, is just driving casually and smoothly. It does that really well. It's just boring in that sense. Something I'm not really a fan of on this thing though is the fake sounds they pump into the cabin. They don't match up with the engine sounds from the 2.4 liter. It's almost like this thing's being dubbed in another language. Watch. You can hear the engine. I don't know if it picks it up on camera. That was probably a bad example, but you can hear the engine just slightly off note from the sound being pumped into it. And it's not a good fake sound either. I feel the actual 2.4 liter probably sounds pretty damn good on its own. In case you're wondering about the all-wheel steering, I am too, so I put a GoPro on the back wheel. Let's see what this actually does. I'm gonna try to turn the tightest circle I can. Oh yeah. Well, that's a great turning radius. You could almost turn around in 2 lanes of traffic, I bet. As you should expect with the Lexus product, the interior on this is exquisite. It's got nice shapes in the fabric and the door cards. The infotainment system, they've definitely tried to move in the more modern direction compared to past systems. It doesn't have the little touchpad to control it anymore, and I miss that. I liked the touchpad. Touchpads are fun. You do get a nice big screen for the infotainment system, but the menu itself is just kind of boring to look at. It doesn't really have fancy graphics other than the little vehicle energy display. Not only does this have metal pedals, it has a huge dead pedal. Like, look at the size of that thing. It's massive. The door handle is a button that you press inside to open it. It's kind of weird. I have ventilation in the back and heatilation. That's a fancy cup holder that doesn't feel like a cheap piece of afterthought that's gonna snap with an unruly child. That actually feels durable. No sitting in the center seat if you are Master Blaster, I think. Well, that's like a little T-bone compartment to keep your steaks. I don't understand. Push. An example is the wireless charge cubby area, the little slider. It feels solid. It doesn't flap around like a cheap piece of plastic. These seats recline back here? Come on. Whoa, they're power! Shut up! Oh, it beeps, so you can't make a human sandwich. Open. Hey look, all my junk fits in there nicely. Pretty good sized storage area. It's not too bad. It's about the same as my Forester. Well, that's kind of suggestive to the type of buyer of this car. It's not just me that thinks grandmas love these. Who else would wear a skirt and heels like that in 2023? Come on. This isn't exactly easy to do in 5-inch stilettos, you know. I have to have the key in my hand to do this, supposedly. Oh, I did it! I'm gonna slap it to manual mode and see how the downshifts are. That's not bad. Go. Yeah, it's just a delay there. And it didn't let me bring it all the way to red line either. It's quick though. The stuff I do like about this, I really like about it, and that's it does feel Toyota Lexus in here. Like it was engineered by robots with OCD. It's very crisp and precise and high build quality feeling. Also, if this thing likely had a European competitor's badge on the front and the back, it would probably be $20,000 or $30,000 more than this is. So even though 62 grand seems like a lot, it actually feels like it's a pretty good deal for what you're getting. Fuel economy wise, considering this thing is fairly heavy and it still pulls off 0 to 60 in the 5-second range and it's all-wheel drive, superb. Great fuel economy. And that's what should be the highlight of buying one of these. Time to give this thing some scores. First up is the Bean score. It's the assessment of the feeling you get in your gut when the wind blows you away. And this RX500H FSport is getting a rating of. Next is the Cookie score, the assessment of value. And as this one is configured in the low 60s, it gets a rating of. Followed by the Wrench score, the assessment of ease of maintenance. And this is getting a rating of. Ow! I did that too hard. Next is the Squid score, the assessment of handling, and the FSport Performance package gives it a rating of. Lastly is the Penguin score, the assessment of how much I personally like a vehicle, and this gets a rating of. I appreciate the innovation behind it and the fact that they're still utilizing an internal combustion engine and not relying on solely just going straight to battery electric vehicles, and I love the color. And the 2.4 turbo. That needs to be in something else also. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you soon with another. Bye!